Just yesterday, the ongoing legal battle that President Trump is facing right here in New York experienced, you could say, a bit of a twist. That's because the testimony that was given by an executive from Deutsche Bank, it appeared to completely shatter the narrative that was being pushed by Ms. Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York. However, in order to explain the significance of what this executive said while on the witness stand, well, I need to quickly set the stage for you regarding this entire lawsuit. As you may know, included among the myriad of different legal cases that have been lobbied against President Trump, you have the case which was brought forth by the New York Attorney General, Ms. Letitia James. This 200-page civil lawsuit was brought forth back in September of last year, and it accuses President Trump, 3 of his adult children, as well as the Trump Organization itself, of lying about their asset values when applying for bank loans. Quote, in her lawsuit, Ms. James claimed that over a 10-year period, from 2011 through 2021, President Trump and the other defendants had engaged in numerous acts of fraud and misrepresentation in the preparation of Mr. Trump's annual statements of financial condition, which included deceiving insurers, tax officials, and lenders by allegedly inflating the value of his properties, including his Mar-a-Lago estate over in Florida. Ms. Letitia James claims that this lawsuit of hers is the result of a 3-year-long investigation, and here's specifically what she is hoping to achieve with the actual case. Quote, Ms. James, a Democrat, is seeking $250 million in penalties and wants to ban President Trump from doing business in New York and from engaging in real estate acquisitions in the state for 5 years. She's also seeking for him and his children to be barred from serving as high-level executives at any company in New York. Okay, so the basic claim here being made by the New York Attorney General is that President Trump and his company, they inflated the value of their assets in order to get better lending terms from banks. Meaning that despite the fact that these banks conducted their own due diligence, despite the fact that after conducting that due diligence, they gave the Trump Organization these loans, despite the fact that these loans and all of the interest on the loans were paid back in full, and despite the fact that these banks themselves appear to want nothing to do with these lawsuits, well, Letitia James still decided to sue the Trump Organization on behalf of the banks, which, just as an aside, was actually the fulfillment of a campaign promise that she made while running for Attorney General. Take a listen.
We will all rise up and resist this man, and ultimately we'll bring him down. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. And the days of Donald Trump are numbered. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up.
Now, for his part, over the past month and a half now that the case has been a trial, President Trump, as well as his legal team, have been maintaining the position that these loans were negotiated fairly, that the interest and the principal was paid off in full, and that the only reason that Letitia James filed this lawsuit at all was for political purposes. However, up until now, everything in this case has been from the prosecution side, meaning that the Attorney General's office has been the one calling forth all the witnesses. But right now, it's the defense's turn to call witnesses, and that they did. Yesterday, Trump's legal team, they called an executive from Deutsche Bank to the witness stand, and this executive's testimony, well, it really called into question the entire premise of Letitia James's argument. Specifically, Mr. David Williams, who directly worked on at least one of the loans that were obtained by Trump from the bank, he testified that it's not unusual for there to be a discrepancy between the bank's assessment of a property and that of the client's. Quote, David Williams, who worked on at least one of the 3 loans Deutsche Bank made to Trump in the years before he was elected president, testified on Tuesday that it's atypical but not entirely unusual for the bank to cut a client's stated asset value by 50% and approve the loan anyway, as it did with Trump. Furthermore, there were several exchanges during the questioning phase which revealed something that frankly most people in real estate already know, which is that during the loan process, there is a natural back and forth between the client and the bank wherein the client tries to provide the highest valuation of their asset possible while the bank tries to lowball the value, and they meet somewhere in the middle. Quote, according to internal bank credit memos used as evidence in the case, Deutsche Bank, which loaned Trump hundreds of millions of dollars for properties in Miami, Chicago, and Washington, cut his stated net worth in 2011 and 2012 from about $4.2 billion to $2.3 billion when evaluating his loan requests. The same documents show that the bank approved the loans anyway because it expected them to generate a profit based on Trump's history of successful developments and other criteria. And then, during the actual questioning, this Deutsche Bank executive, he said that it's actually standard practice to review a client's stated net worth and then adjust the valuation as needed. Here are a few short snippets from the exchange between Trump's lawyer and Mr. Williams. Trump's lawyer asks, quote, "Is the bank capable of reaching its own judgment based on the evaluation it makes of the guarantor's financial condition?" Mr. Williams responds by saying, "Certainly, yes." Then Trump's lawyer asks about due diligence, to which Mr. Williams responds by saying, "As part of our due diligence, we subject a client's asset value to adjustments. It's part of our underwriting process. We apply it to every client regardless of what's reported." The lawyer then asked, "Is a difference of opinion in asset values between the client and the bank a disqualifying factor to extend credit?" Mr. Williams says no. Why not? Mr. Williams then says the following, "It's just a difference of opinion. I think we expect clients to provide information to be accurate, but such financial statements are made largely relying on the use of estimates." And indeed, according to earlier testimony that was given by President Trump when he himself was on the witness stand, he made the argument that his estimates for the values of his properties, they included the potential value of future development as well as the boost that the properties would receive from the overall Trump name. And so, that is the essence of the witness's testimony, that these valuations are estimates on both the client side as well as on the bank side, and that regardless of what the client says, the bank always conducts their own due diligence anyway, which ties directly back to the argument that Trump's lawyers are making in this particular case, which is that no banks were financially harmed by loaning to either President Trump, to his kids, or to the Trump organization. However, on the flip side, even after this testimony from Mr. Williams, the lawyers representing the state of New York, they continue to double down on their argument. For instance, quote, "Kevin Wallace, a lawyer for Letitia James, told the judge at the end of the day that the bank executive's testimony does not undercut the state's case because the trial doesn't hinge on whether Deutsche Bank was a victim. Instead, he said, it's whether Trump knowingly created and used false financial documents." Meaning that the state's argument here is that even if there are absolutely no victims at all, both Trump and the Trump organization can still be found guilty. Regardless, though, this testimony did have the effect of essentially undermining the state's portrayal of Deutsche Bank as one of Trump's biggest victims. However, that might all not really even matter. That's because this case is not playing out before a jury. Instead, this is what's known as a bench trial with Judge Arthur Engoron as the sole determiner. And he has already determined several months ago that President Trump was guilty of committing fraud. In fact, right after this Deutsche Bank executive gave his testimony on the witness stand, Trump's attorney, he turned to the judge and he asked him to immediately issue a verdict in favor of the defendant, meaning President Trump, arguing that the testimony from the bank executive had destroyed the claim that any of the alleged asset inflation was material to the bank's decisions. Here's specifically what Trump's lawyer told the judge, quote, "The bank had no problem with a $2 billion difference, a $3 billion difference. Large changes to net worth are not unusual. There's been no demonstration of any materiality issues at all." However, this story gets a lot wilder, which we'll get into right after I introduce today's sponsor by showing you this little piece of money. Or rather, I should say that this is fake money being printed into oblivion by those geniuses over in Washington, D.C. And so before they completely obliterate your life savings, what I recommend you do is to convert that fake money into real money, which is physical gold and silver. And the best company to use is the sponsor of today's episode, American Hartford Gold, who also happens to be my own personal gold and silver bullion dealer. They have thousands of other 5-star ratings across the country. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They ship quickly, directly to your doorstep. Their product listings are awesome. They're stacked with great options of gold and silver bullion and coins, and they have amazing customer service. When you pick up the phone and call them, you feel good knowing you support a company that supports the truth getting out into the wider American audience. And so calling them up is a no-brainer. But best of all, if you tell them that Roman sent you, they will throw in up to $5,000 worth of free silver with your first purchase. It's 866-242-2352, or you can simply text the word Roman, R-O-M-A-N, Roman, to 65532. Of course, all their details will be down in the description box below. And now, let's head on back to the studio. However, the judge was not convinced with that argument, and he responded simply by saying this, quote, "The mere fact that lenders were happy doesn't mean that the statute wasn't violated." And so, there you have it. The banks themselves appear to have been perfectly fine with both the estimates as well as the loan terms, but the state is still pursuing the case anyway, arguing that regardless of the bank's opinions, the Trump organization did lie on the official forms, which is a crime. Now, moving forward, the defense is set to call another 3 current and former executives of Deutsche Bank as witnesses in order to essentially flip the script even further on the prosecution's version of events. Those testimonies, they should be coming in today, tomorrow, and on Friday. And just for your general reference, because the judge in the case has already determined that President Trump is guilty of financial fraud, the rest of the trial is mostly about figuring out the dollar amount of the fine that will be levied against Trump as well as his organization. As I mentioned earlier, Ms. Letitia James is pushing for a $250 million fine, which she claims is the amount of illegal profit that the Trump organization made when they inflated their assets. Now, if I had to wager a guess here, I would assume that the reason that Trump's lawyers are calling these different bank executives to the stand, well, it has less to do with lowering the dollar amount of the actual fine and more to do with the inevitable appeal of this case. Because when they take this case to appeal, all the testimonies from these different bank executives, they will be in the official transcripts. That is, of course, just my guess. I think that because they've already been found guilty, getting these bank executives to say their piece on the witness stand has more to do with the appeal process rather than the fine. Again, just my guess. Regardless, though, moving forward, we have several more banker testimonies to look forward to, and then subsequently on December the 11th, which is 2 weeks from now, President Trump is set to once again take the witness stand himself. And so we'll just have to wait and see how this all plays itself out. In the meantime, if you'd like to dig through the testimony of Mr. David Williams for yourself, I'll throw my research notes. They'll be down in the description box below this video if you happen to be the type of person who likes digging into the weeds. And all I ask in return is that as you're making your way down there to the description box, you take a very small detour to smash those like and subscribe buttons. The like button, it will help this video reach ever more people via the YouTube algorithm, while the subscribe button, smashing that button, it will ensure that you will not miss any new episodes that we publish here on YouTube. And then lastly, if you ever think to yourself, hey, I really like Roman's content, I just wish he would put out more episodes every single week. Well, you're in luck, because I do. Over on Epoch TV, our awesome no censorship video platform, I publish anywhere between 1 to 3 exclusive episodes of Facts Matter that frankly, due to the subject matter, are just too spicy for YouTube. But because Epoch TV is our own no censorship video platform, there is no problem of any topics over there. And so if you'd like to check out those exclusive episodes, including a huge backlog from the last 3 years, you can find it all over on the website. Right now, we're running a phenomenal sale. It's just 25 cents a week for the whole year, which if you do the math, works itself out to just be $1 a month. And so if you've been on the fence about subscribing to the Epoch Times, maybe you know that you're looking for a source of honest news, but you're not sure whether you're ready to actually commit to a subscription, well, this is a great opportunity to try it for yourself for just $1 a month. I'll throw the link to it. It'll be right there at the top of the description box below. You can just click on that link and it'll take you to the sale page where you can try the Epoch Times yourself. And by the way, you can cancel anytime if you're not satisfied, but something tells me that you will fall in love with it and be a subscriber for a long, long, long time to come. Again, the link to that sale page will be right there at the top of the description box below. I hope you click on it, and I hope that you join us over on the Epoch Times website. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.